Now then, people, and welcome back to the Just Joe Football Show. It is Sunday, the 5th of September, and it's time for another episode of the Daily Leeds. Everything concerning Leeds United and all the news in and around Elland Road and Thorp. Before we get into today's video, I just want to say a big thank you. Yesterday, I hit over 1 million views on my channel in what's been probably... Well, it is. It's less than 12 months we've hit over 1 million views. So I want to thank each and every one of you that continues to support my channel and watch my videos, like the videos, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. It means the absolute world. So thank you very much for that. And let's get into today's video. And this is the moment when I take a stand. Guys, it is Sunday, the 5th of September, and England play. Yes, we are still in the international break. I will be doing a watch-along on the channel for that game, and more reason to do it as well is because Patrick Bamford is in line for his debut in an England shirt. I believe he will start tonight against Andorra at Wembley. So please join me for that. Fingers crossed that Paddy Bamford can get his first England start and hopefully get off to a goal-scoring start in the Three Lions England jersey. We're now just going to speak on some transfer stuff. I know obviously the transfer window's past now, but we're hearing little bits and bats about players Leeds went for, players Leeds got offers for, just some more information, some more meat on the bone. So it turns out FC Utrecht tried to sign Crescencio Somerville during the window. They found it impossible to sign him because the Whites vetoed his departure in the recent transfer window. We know now, obviously, with the Costa loan and Poveda loan, that Bielsa sees Somerville as being one of his four wingers. We know he likes two players in each positions, two players on the left, two players on the right. Of course, them players can play across all, but he likes to have four wingers, and that's why Somerville has stayed. Paul Robinson, former goalkeeper of Leeds United, has been speaking, and he says that Leeds United were interested in signing Wolves winger Adama Traore during the summer transfer window. Listen, I think Paul Robinson knows about as much as me when it comes to transfer windows currently at the club. That's no disrespect to Mr. Robinson. You know, he was a great servant at our club and a top goalkeeper. But I just don't see Leeds United ever being in for Adama Traore. I know a lot of fans would have liked to see him come in, but not for me. He's had his Sacco on steroids. He's had a good start to the season with Wolves, I guess you could say, but again, still no numbers on the board in terms of assists or goals scored. Just while we're on the goalkeeper position as well, Christopher Klassen was interviewed after Norway's under-21s game versus Austria. He's been asked about his time at Leeds, and he said, look, I am enjoying every second, many new things I need to get used to, but I've been very included in the dressing room. He says they are a great dressing room, they take care of new players. He said he's talked briefly with Bielsa, but the goalkeeper coach is his main man. And we know that Bielsa likes to have a little bit of a standoffish approach with his players. We've only ever really seen that mask slip when Leeds United were promoted and we were privy to the scenes on the Take Us Home documentary. Even when I watch that now, it still gets me going when he's like, Kalvin, Patrick, Tyler. But yeah, Christopher Klassen's been welcomed in, and it's nice to hear him say that, they have a very inclusive dressing room. They take care of new players, which is always what you want to hear and see. The guys at TalkSport have been up to their old tricks again. This time, Gabriel Agbonlahor, we know he likes to speak about Leeds United. It's not just Leeds United he's been speaking about. He's been speaking about the best midfield partnership England have ever seen, of course, in Rice and Phillips. And he says that Kalvin, Phillips and Declan Rice will want to move on from West Ham and Leeds United, respectively, at the end of this season. Bold claims made by Gabriel Agbonlahor. Look, if I'm being honest, I think Declan Rice does move on this summer. He wanted to go this window, we're led to believe, but obviously West Ham got into Europe. There's a number of clubs that want Declan Rice. With Kalvin, I don't see it, especially not this summer. But Danny Mills was also speaking on the subject. And listen, Danny Mills is Danny Mills. He says some outlandish things. A lot of these radio stations, that's what they're there to do, right? Perpetuate this constant news stream and clickbait stuff. But Danny Mills does make a few good points in what he has to say. I know, obviously, some of us won't want to hear it, but he basically said, look, I'm a massive fan of Kalvin Phillips. but suggested that he could have his head turned if a Champions League club make an offer to sign him during next summer's window. Now, let's be honest. Any player wants to play at the highest level of football. And if a Champions League playing club come knocking at your door, then of course you're going to want to listen to that. He said the more and more he's involved with England, he's going to start to hear about what other clubs do. His head could be turned, and rightly so, he said, by players saying we're playing against Real Madrid, we're playing against PSG, we're playing against Barcelona. And undoubtedly, Danny Mills said there'll be a part of him thinking, I want a bit of that. I want to test myself against the best. He said if Leeds United progress and make it that way, then brilliant. But it's the second season in the Premier League, so you're going to have to be more realistic than that. And I agree with that. You know, there is some fans that expect a constant progression, and it's just not feasible. Like, because by that logic, we'll win the Premier League in like 4 or 5 years. It just doesn't happen. It's so hard to break into that top upper echelon of the Premier League. We've seen Leicester do it. That's about it, really, isn't it? And they've spent more time in the top four than half of the top 4 teams, but come the end of the season, they never quite make it, you know? So I do think there is a point to what Danny Mills is saying. And of course, as well, like, I keep coming out with this message as well, that Kalvin's now done it at the Euros, at the top of the game, in a European Championship final, continues to perform on the international stage for England. And naturally, there will come a time that Kalvin Phillips will move on if Leeds United don't progress into Europe. I think a lot of us understand and agree with that. I just don't think it's as immediate as what these, you know, people are making out. I don't see that. You know, but look, Danny Mills finished with another good season this year, and there'll be some very, very serious offers that come in for Kalvin Phillips. And I think they will be. I think they will be. If he has another barnstormer season, then you will see big money coming in for him. And let's be honest, if Leeds United were to receive an offer of £80 million for Kalvin Phillips, can we realistically turn that down? Do you think the club will turn it down? Can Kalvin turn down the rising wages that will undoubtedly be offered? I'm not sure, but you just don't want to. You don't want to believe it to be true. I don't think it'll happen. You know, I don't think it'll happen. But I know the noise and the sound coming out will be deafening. I think next summer will be a real test of the club's resolve in terms of what they want to do. Because if Rafinha, if Kalvin have similar seasons, continue to do what they do, then next summer, clubs, you know, will have, I don't know, 2 months, is it open, end of season to start season? I don't know how many months it is, but off the top of my head, but it will just be noise, Kalvin, all the way through. We heard little snippets during this window of Rafinha, but we knew it were never going to happen. It got battered away easily. But next time around, it could be. So there is bits to it. Of course, we don't like to hear it because it's coming from people that we just talk a lot of the time just to get clicks, etc. But I think there is a case of it. Do I think we need to be worried this summer? No. But there will come a time, and it's a fair point. You know, it's a discussion that probably does need to be mentioned, because clubs will come knocking for him 100%, because he's an unbelievable footballer. He's an unbelievable footballer, but there's a lot to be said about him being Leeds United. He's Leeds born and bred. You know, if the club do progress, of course he'll stay. We've seen that with Declan Rice at West Ham. You know, but there does come a time where it's like, right, okay, you know, I want to play regularly at this level. And this, you know, Kalvin plays in such a specialist position that they're not easy to find. So look, we'll have to wait and see. But one thing's for sure. No worries this year. No worries this year. That's one thing. We were speaking as well, like I mentioned, about transfer window, and the Athletic was saying that Leeds United were interested in a move for Rangers winger Ryan Kent this summer, but were deterred by his price tag. That's according to the Athletic, who claimed that Steven Gerrard's side were holding out for 20 million for the former Liverpool prospect. Phil told us on the Phil Hay podcast that he said they looked at Ryan Kent in multiple windows. They've looked at him now, but he said, I don't honestly think they would have done Ryan Kent, because I don't think they like the valuation of him up at Rangers. And that's for me a big boost towards Dan James, because if Rangers were holding out for 20 million, Leeds United weren't willing to spend that, but they were willing to put 25 million down and rising for Dan James. And I know a lot of us, and me included, would have probably preferred Ryan Kent. I know a lot of us don't. There's quite a large section who think that Dan James was one of the poorer acquisitions out of the potential acquisitions we could have got, i.e. who we were linked with. So Noah Lang, Matthias Cunha, Ryan Kent, and many more. Cooper Miners, etc. And some of us probably think, right, well, Dan James is actually bottom of that list. But for Leeds United, for Phil Hay to say that Leeds didn't like the valuation of Kent at 20 million, but were willing to go 25 for Dan James. So I think that's another feather in his cap, and we should be enthused by that, because it gives more confidence that Bielsa, well, we know he's like a son to him, I think, Dan James, before he's even met him. But it also, you could also say that maybe he's seen Ryan Kent as more of a Rodrigo type of positional player, if that makes sense, like a high attacking eight, because we know that Bielsa loves wingers, right? And Phil Hay did an article, which I'll put a link in the description to this, just looking at Burnley and how they sort of stifled us on the wings, and how, you know, that's been, you know, a way to, I've heard all stats, aren't we, say it, you know, where we're pressed in the wing areas and we're unable to find, you know, outs and create a lot. And we've seen that from Burnley. But he made a point in the article about Bielsa and his acquisitions at Leeds United, and how the big money's always been spent on wingers, and we're all focused on this centre midfield position, and I understand we do need bodies in there, but it seems secondary to Bielsa, because, you know, we've needed a centre midfielder for a while. We tried to sign Cuisance, you know, that didn't happen. We tried to sign my man Conor Gallagher. That didn't happen, unfortunately, although the club would have liked it to. But one thing Bielsa has done is always spent big on wingers, you know, 25 million on James, 17 million on Rafinha, 15 on Helder Costa, 11 million on Jack Harrison. So all of Bielsa's big money acquisitions, really, and the number of players he's bought has been in the wing position. So maybe looking at Kent for 20 million, were they thinking he would play more centrally? I don't know, unless they just think, look, Dan James is a level above him. We'll have to wait and see. But one of the reasons that he focuses big on the wingers is of course the jobs that they have. You know, they're also like fullbacks at time. You know, they have to constantly be in synergy with their fullback. They're always constantly dovetailing, you know, Elland, Rafinha, Harrison and Alioski. Now it's Harrison and Firpo, you know. And Phil went on to say that actually there was concerns about Noah Lang's defensive capabilities. And that's one of the reasons why Leeds United didn't make that move. And I remember the video clips we've seen of Ten Hag at Ajax having a go at Noah Lang, saying this is a team game, this isn't your game, Noah, you know. And as much as we looked at Noah Lang, and I as a fan was excited by his prospect, by what he did on the field, but he could also be frustrating, especially for someone in Bielsa's system, because we know, I say it all the time, for me, no right winger does what Rafinha does, man. They're level for me, and Harrison, of course, but he goes under the radar because I think we underappreciate him really as a fan base, or I do specifically. But I don't know many other right wingers in the league that do what Rafinha does in terms of the work rate that he puts in and how he just marshals the whole right hand side at times. You know, yes, defensively is not great, but are wingers ever really, apart from Jack Harrison, you could say. But yeah, it's quite interesting hearing that. And just on Jack Harrison as well, he's been speaking about Junior Firpo to BBC Radio Leeds. He says, we're getting along really well off the pitch, which is great to hear. He said, I think that can only help what's going to happen on the pitch. We're always trying to talk to each other and see what works in terms of communication. We've got along really well from the start, which is great to hear. He says, obviously, Firpo has a lot of talent. I think a lot of people saw that against Everton, what he can bring. And once he settles into how we play and gets into that intensity and running style, he'll be perfect, you know. He says, he goes on to say that he really thinks he can help unravel some great attacking opportunities on the left. You know, I've said that. I said that from the start, that left-hand side for me this season when Thorp is on it. You know, because we've not quite seen it yet, but it takes a while to, you know, adapt to Bielsa's methods. You know, he was brought off against Everton because positional sense was all over the shop and he was being beat by Alex Iwobi. But you know, it's a lot to have fitness as well as mental fortitude during a full 90 minutes under a Marcelo Bielsa, you know, side. But Harrison just finished with saying he's a great addition to the squad. I think everyone is really excited to have him here and everyone can see what he can bring, which is fantastic and great to hear. A player that's also pulling up trees and getting his current coach very excited is, of course, Poveda. Mowbray's been speaking about Poveda. And he says he has an ability to be a key player for that Blackburn side and hopes he can flourish at Ewood Park. He says he's a great player and I see how confident he is with the ball at his feet during training. We need to be excited by Poveda. I'm sure Ian will fit in at Ewood Park. Listen, the jury's still out for me on whether or not he'll return to Leeds United. Look, I know the club have said Poveda will be back, but for me, any player that goes out on loan under Bielsa isn't in the plans or he doesn't see a future for him. I'm yet to be convinced that that is the case. You know, I know the club have said it is, but I'm not so sure, guys. I'm not so sure. Because, look, we had offers for Somerville. We had offers for Greenwood that are not even getting game time yet anyway. And they're telling them no because Bielsa sees something there. He likes the players who he sees have a future, keeping them close to the squad. You know, even if it means they're playing under 23s, but he'd rather use them in their murder ball sessions, etc., as opposed to sending them out on loan. So the fact that Poveda's gone out on loan, it's not good for me or for his time at Leeds United. But I know a lot of you know, will disagree, and of course Mowbray sounds like he disagrees. But you know, we'll have to wait and see. And just to finish, the Yorkshire Evening Post did an article based on whoscored.com. I remember using Who Scored before last season when people were hammering Cooper, and it turned out he was actually in the team of the season up to that certain point in the season. Of course, he didn't finish there, but he was there. He was there. And they've been given their ratings of each team's best performer of the season so far. And of course, for Leeds United, it was Rafinha with a Who Scored rating of 6.9. And just to throw it out there, guys, I thought I'd leave you with this one as well. Crystal Palace's best player so far this season is, of course, my man Conor Gallagher, Who Scored rating of 8.09. The one that got away, man. The one that got away. But listen, that was your Daily Leeds. Thank you so much, as always, for watching. And thank you for getting me 1 million views. It means the absolute world. I got loads of positive comments from people who said that they were buzzing the Daily Leeds was back. So thank you very much for everyone watching that. Make sure, if you can, join me for the England watch-along. I'll be going live at about 4:45. Paddy Bamford to get a hat-trick on his England debut, fingers crossed. But if not, listen, enjoy the rest of your weekend. And then, of course, you know, from Monday, we're looking ahead to Liverpool. We're back. Normal football will resume and we can start doing some more previewing content for that game. And what a game it is as well to get at Elland Road. These are what I wanted us to be back in the Premier League for. I know Everton are a big club and we had last season, but with fans in the ground, Liverpool coming, great away support, players like Salah, Mane. It's going to be some atmosphere, and I, for one, can't wait. But yeah, thank you as always for watching in. Smash a like on you, Peace out. Leeds, Leeds, Leeds.